Hi, this is Dan Bullard, retired electronic engineer, sitting on the front deck of my house. But again, it's a beautiful day, and notice I trim my beard. It's summer, so I don't need a long beard anymore. I want to mention Stack Overflow. I went back to Stack Overflow, and I'm in pestering them with my harmonic stuff, and they say, oh, you won't believe it. They believe Dave Tweed, the same guy who didn't understand if you take the spectrum of a distorted sine wave and you take the spectrum of the part that you distorted, the part that you removed, they have exactly the same harmonic signature. And he didn't understand that, and he says, well, you got the polarity wrong. Like I drew the goddamn things myself. No, I took the spectrum of the part that I removed, and I took the spectrum of the distorted wave, and they exactly equal except for the fundamental. So the only thing that's missing from the harmonics of a piece that was removed is the fundamental. Anyway, Dave Tweed, he's a piece of work. He told me that, because I asked him, what's the formula? He's arguing with me about my harmonics. I said, what's the formula then? You know everything about this. What's the formula? They keep closing down all my questions. Well, I finally decided, okay, I'm not getting anywhere with these people on harmonics, so let's try something else. So I hit him with it is electronics, stack exchange for electrical engineering. So I hit him with an electronics problem of the op amp at Raytheon and Tektronix. For 10 years, Raytheon had this problem with an op amp that was embedded in part of a chip for the F-16. And it was really interesting. And they couldn't understand what was going on. So they had this chip on the F-16, an avionics chip for the heads-up display. And it had an op amp in the chip, and they needed to test the op amp separately. And one of the things they did was they had to test input leakage. And so they used a current meter. They don't use an op amp loop. That's the right way to do it. Op amp loop is the smart way to do it. But they used a current meter to measure the inputs. So they measured the positive input, and then they measured the negative input. And when they measured the negative input, they disconnected the feedback loop that kept it in closed loop. So when they did that, suddenly the output like zoomed up to one of the rails and caused a current clamp. And this happened for 10 years because what could it be, right? So what they saw was a giant current. So they just assumed that it was a defect in the part because it had been sent off to heat and cool and soak in water and all kinds of stuff. And so then they brought it back and it failed the test. And it wasn't just one part, it was several. So they couldn't understand why. They worked on it for 10 years. Tens of engineers worked on it for 10 years. I'd say dozens, but I don't know. It was quite a few engineers. They never figured it out. My boss, Brian Brokaw, took the part over, and he was looking at it, trying to solve the problem. And I said, hey, Brian, I can help you with that. I'm pretty good at op amps. And he said, okay, give it a try, Dan. 2 days. 2 days. What was going on was when they tested the input on the positive input, no problem. But when they tested the negative input, they opened the feedback loop and kaboom, it went to the rail. Game over, man. The output pin had a current clamp at 200 milliamps or something like that. So it exceeded the current clamp on the op amp. Now, in some cases, it didn't do that, but it just depended. It's a 50-50 shot, right? Would it go to one rail or would it go to the other? So flip a coin. So it passed the test the first time around. Some ships didn't pass, and they were probably good parts, but they didn't do it the right way. They should have used an op amp loop. You don't measure the inputs of an op amp directly. Use an op amp loop, and that's classic. Anyway, I propose that they look into that and tell me what's going on, because it's an electronics problem, right? Well, here's what Stack Overflow said. We don't need any more questions where you already know the answer and then you mock those who don't know the right answer. This is a form of inauthentic site usage. It causes disruption and is not acceptable here. It's also yet more self-promotion of your theories, which you were previously asked to stop. Therefore, you have been temporarily suspended for 365 days. So this is Dave Tweed. He's mad that answer the question. It's really easy. I mean, what can it be? Is it the water intrusion? Is it the heat? What is it? I gave them these pictures and they couldn't figure it out. Stack Exchange, goodbye. It's okay. It's one more nail in my coffin. But it's okay. No problem. But Dave Tweed believes in sine x over x. He says that's the formula. Oh yeah, sure. Okay. Now if you look at my stuff, and especially if you look at my videos and read my books, you'll see that my formula, the Bowler harmonic solution, works very well, but it only takes one angle. So it's a problem. But I mean, the only way to get around that is to do an FFT. And it's not that hard to do an FFT anymore. I mean, people have told me FFTs whip out in no time now. It used to be milliseconds, but now it's microseconds. So who needs to worry about it? Just do the FFT. It's the angle. That's what causes the harmonic humping. And it's not sine x over x, and I've heard that before. These guys are idiots. If you think you know everything, you probably don't. Now, I admit I didn't know. When I first started doing this and Bruce Tibbetts jumped on me on my video, I didn't know. And so I was asking the guys at Applecoast, how do harmonics work? What causes harmonics? They didn't know. They couldn't answer. And I gave up on them. And then I went in looking at it by myself. I was on the defensive big time. Anyway, so Stack Overflow, goodbye. And no great loss, But they can't even answer a simple question on harmonics, or let alone op amps. So I don't even want to bring up the CMR test. The CMR test was really amazing. It's just an FFT. But remember, an FFT is just a button on scope, or it's just an approximation. No, the FFT is absolutely 100% real. Don't get me started. Anyway, I just thought I want to throw that out there. So once again, from the river, this is Dan Bullard. See ya.